Hello, welcome to yet another episode of All About Marketing. This is a platform for all things branding, business, marketing, and advertising. Today, we are in a situation where everything is being touched by AI, and we can't escape the reality. We have with us today Shantanu Tungare, who is a filmmaker and a narrative strategist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Amaya, for having me.
Let's begin with what is it that you do as a narrative strategist?
So, I've divided my life into two parts. One part is the films part, where I make films for myself. It's not just making films with particular script. I like the aspect of building a world. Then that world will have central characters. Then from there, I let the world interact with the characters and then the stories are told. That's where one film becomes a complete series in itself and leads to legacy content. So, as a filmmaker, that's what I do. I've been working on a series, films, and a transmedia series of sorts called as Ancient Indian Billionaires. And that series will span across all platforms films, series, games, live interactions. At the same point of time, I want conversations to happen over that. That is what I feel the impact of a film should be. That's why I'm calling myself a filmmaker. So, my work starts before the brand strategy. It starts off with the narrative strategy. When I say narrative strategy, which means when it comes to a brand strategy, there is a very clear target, and this is the impact that we want, which leads to an economic outcome. When it comes to a narrative strategy, I want you to have a conversation about my brand without me being in the room. So that is what I help brands to do. I help politicians to do. And we are working with certain MNCs at this stage to build that for certain products for them. So, in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing. So, like I said, my life in two parts. One is what I really enjoy, the other one is what pays the bills.
Awesome. That's what I think everybody wants to do. Divide their life into things where something pays the bills and something keeps you young and interesting and alive, right? Awesome. So I want to simplify this conversation because you talk a lot about storytelling. And in a way, you have been my guru because I have attended your session, right? On Outskill that you conduct, where you talk about building stories using AI as a tool, right? What I would want to know is at the core of it, how do you define a story? What is a good story to you?
That's a really deep question, honestly. I don't think there is only one answer because there are different stories that we tell ourselves also, and the stories we want to tell the other person. All right. So, at the core of it, something which resonates with me really at a deeper level is what a story is. If I watch something like, if let's say, for example, I watch a series, I am watching it not just how the story is flowing, I'm watching it for the character. Why? Because the character has to relate to me in some way. So, storytelling is our way of communicating with each other and coming on the same page. All right. So that is, according to me, what storytelling is at the core of it. Rest of it are all facades around it. Then you can have it into a sci-fi, emotional drama, musical, whatever you feel like doing. But at the core of it, it should be very relatable to me and you as humans to communicate with each other. Not in a way, hey, I am Shantanu, you are Amay, but who am I? What's my background? And I put it in a very entertaining way or a format which works for us. That for me is storytelling.
And how are Shantanu Indian ways of storytelling different from the rest of the world?
That's a very good question. And that is something which I touch upon in my sessions also, the deeper level of sessions and my team also. When it comes to an American way of storytelling, there is a central character. The central character goes through a crisis. He triumphs from the crisis, and it's an individual's triumph to glory. That's how the Iliad is placed. That's how Shakespeare's Shakespeare's books are placed. Like that is how Marvel movies are also placed. That is how DCs are also. All the movies have a central character, and that central character needs to triumph in the end, which leads to individual glory. That's how the classic hero's arc, which was I think Joseph Campbell's book talks about that particular arc. But there is an other aspect of storytelling, which is the Indian way of storytelling. Now, that follows four principles. First is there is a central protagonist, yes, goes through a crisis, definitely. He wins through the crisis. But fourth is he asks the question at what cost? That spiritual aspect of things is the Indian way of storytelling. Most of the audience will go away when the heroes won. But the post credits is where the Indian storytelling begins. That is why India was predominantly known as the hub for spirituality initially, because we understood this depth, and that somewhere is getting lost in most of the stories I've been seeing. Most of our stories are modeled across this individual character. Most of our personal brands are also modeled across triumph of an individual. What is a personal brand? You triumph in this clutter of content that's there. My brand should stand out. All right. That is how the platforms are modeled. If I'm having my team only promoted, these days, you're familiar, you're a marketer, you're pretty popular and an experienced marketer. You see the personal brand or the CEOs of a companies or the heads of companies are becoming brands right now, and then they have to carry the weight of the entire company. Initially, it used to be not like this. The company was the hero, and everyone else around we didn't even know about. This is that era where we are moving to the Western storytelling, predominantly because we are using Western platforms like this YouTube or LinkedIn, X, Instagram. What Indian platform do we have? We don't have.
What you touched upon is interesting because I recently saw a play called Hamare Ram by Ashutosh Rana, right? And he plays Ravan. And it gets into, I mean, of course, there is the whole Ram Leela thing, but it gets into at what cost for both, right? So, Ram as a character, as a king, as a father, as a husband, pays a certain cost, which his kids are now asking. Love and Kush are asking him a question. And similarly, questions are asked of Ravan, and he's also thinking at what cost did I do all this? So pretty interesting. I think the artha aspect of
Correct.
storytelling, right, is extremely very Indian.
But still, I would like to tell you that that format of the negative character playing the protagonist and asking deeper questions is also a very Western construct. It's called Ramayana. It's not from Ravan's side of things. We don't have a Mahabharat from Duryodhana's angle. All right. We have it from the good side of things. Right now, we are resonating more with the negative characters. Predominantly, if you must have seen Pablo Escobar in Narcos, is the central character. What is Sacred Games? Negative character is the central character. Most of these series are focusing on negative characters as central character because it appeals to the evil side of things. It's much more appealing. And that is a problem. Indian storytelling is not led by a central character which is negative. And that is also something which we need to understand on a large scale. If you're talking about Ramayana from Ravan's angle, he's done everything right in the current scenario. He was a nice capitalist. What was the problem? His Lanka was Sone ki Lanka. People were happy. He lost. Right now, most of the people in the industry in the AI world are hardcore capitalist. Sam Altman equating us to GPU cost. That's also a problem. The negative character being central is the world, is the Kali we are living in today.
Right. That shows how he's thinking about the world.
But there is a right pushback we can give if we follow the Indian way of storytelling. We do not need. I was in a conference, Mumbai Tech Week last year, where this very popular influencer who came in and he said on that big panel, and he's a good influencer, nobody needs to learn any other language but English. He said that. It might not resonate that deeply with people, but imagine losing out all the major 26 languages of India and the dialects whom we don't even know about, losing that just because AI is expecting you to speak in English. That's why I'm really happy with the AI summit that happened, where they were actually speaking about Sarvam, where it was translating real time. Those are the technological advancements that we need in this current day and age. And not these Gemini coming and telling people to wear sari pehno, and then photo nikalo. You're not wearing any sari. Ghar pe sari pada hai, you're not wearing that. But starting these trends randomly just so we adopt to AI, that is a very Western thing to do. It's very aggressive marketing, which we do not need. Just because we are simple people, you don't use us as database and consumer mass. That's my problem. So the world as a story is going through in the central character as the negative people in general.
Absolutely.
The AI world is also not different.
And I think when the Western companies want to capture a market like India, huge lucrative market, may not be very high paying, but by the sheer size of the market, it's a lucrative market for them. It's an attractive market and they're wanting to enter and they're doing these gimmicks to kind of find a foothold.
Yeah. It's like Mohini avatar of Vishnu walks in front of Danavs and they really want Mohini.
Right.
But Mohini is not gonna fall for Danavs unless Mohini doesn't know she's Vishnu. So that's going to be that that's a challenge right now. We are in that cusp where the decisions we take right now are going to model our future. Because it's similar to tech colonization. Tech colonization will happen similar to colonization. Companies slowly start seeping in into our daily lives, similar to ChatGPT of the world, Claudes of the world, Geminis of the world, seeping into our daily lives. And then they'll call the shots.
So when you're thinking about AI, if you think very deeply about it, do you feel pessimistic about the future?
If we don't model our future according to how Indian way of things are, it will be a problem because only India has, like I said, the four arc, the four structure.
Not even China?
China per se, see, it's like if there is a rabid dog, I cannot send a cat to fight a rabid dog. I need another rabid dog. So China and America are good. In between, there is a human called as India, which has the wisdom to put both of them in a cage, not kill them. Both of them in a cage, stay in your lane, and then we model the future in terms of philosophy. Tech innovation, we have nowhere. China is way ahead even of the US. Even as an AI content creator, as a filmmaker, I use Chinese models more. American models are marketed better. I don't like those models. They are too expensive also. But Chinese models are supremely efficient because they are not even using the same compute power as the American models, but still give the better output in lower cost. So I would go for China, but I'll keep them at an arm's length, not going to give all my details to them, but I'll keep them at arm's length. I like Chinese models per se because they do it very efficiently. But I would not bang completely on China. We are 20 years behind for sure. But we have to start it right now. But complete non-reliance on American models for sure. I don't trust American models purely because somebody who's marketing too much has a problem.
I'll digress a bit, but do you think that between China and America, somehow in India, America has marketed itself so well that you don't see the evil side of American capitalism?
Actually, we see. Yeah, but please go on.
A lot of people don't see, I would say. And China somehow is the villain, right? Which we easily accept as the villain.
That, my friend, is a narrative war, honestly. China itself is an ecosystem of more people than America.
And are they losing this narrative war just because English is predominant here?
Probably not. I would not say losing it, probably not caring about it. Because they are. Have you seen the terrariums?
Small ecosystem, yeah.
Terrariums are basically an self sustained ecosystem. It does not care what's happening around. It is a good ecosystem by itself. China itself is that. It has told the world that without English, people can be innovative. If you go to Fushan, if you go to Beijing, if you go to Shanghai, we do walk into the future, right? We do walk into the future. America itself is using Chinese products. We have been going to the US back since 97. My Masi stays there. I've been seeing made in China products since ages. All right. So even if they are telling people that it is the it is the villain right there, it's probably because they don't want the demand to increase in China and then less of their products going there. But they in itself are functioning really well with each other. All right. So that's a narrative war which is going on. English I will not trust. I'm speaking English right now, but the only reason why, because the millennia of British education which has been hammered down to us. So we are not comfortable having a conversation, let's say in a Marathi or a Hindi, because predominantly this particular there is a narrative and there is a certain conditioning for the top layer of people who are going to consume
Right.
this podcast in the marketing space who speak English. Their mails are not in Marathi, Hindi, or any other languages. So that's where we are at, honestly.
Coming to what you're wearing, and very interesting that I see the Bharat Rebrand project. So tell us a bit about what that is.
So coming to this topic is something which makes me very vulnerable, purely because I do not like how India is shown across the globe stereotypically. Like when I speak about India, they'll talk about our accents, they'll talk about geeks, not very powerful people, very like strange brown skin that they show us. The media across the globe, the media across the globe will only have, you know, certain shots of India. They'll show the Taj Mahal hotel, but after that there is a pan shot towards a cow, you know,
Mm.
and then chaos where they swoosh pan the camera, and then there are those people who are sweating. So very subtle way of positioning how India is.
Does that happen when you use an AI model to generate images, videos? That
Right now, it doesn't happen that much because Google's Nano Banana is getting trained very much well on the Indian content, but we should start putting things out there. Predominantly, ancient Indian billionaires is to train these models. I'm putting my stuff out there so that they train themselves to an India which I'm visualizing. Right now, if we think of an Emirati, what do you think?
maybe a guy wearing the Emirati clothes.
Do you think of money? Do you think of oil?
Think of money, yes. Maybe think of oil. Very good roads in the desert. Maybe has a eagle hawk with him. Has a cheetah. Maybe yes.
That's how they have positioned themselves over few decades, from a desert to the most advanced city where people speak about. That's the narrative they set out to happen right 50 years ago when it was just a small desert, more than 50 years ago, I guess. India has so many narratives at this stage. There will be left liberals who will speak about the problems with India. There will be completely right ideology who will never even look at the problems of India. There will be a middle class who will not even speak about anything. All right. So India has multiple narratives going on. The Bharat Rebrand project is to bind this narrative to Vitta, bind this narrative to Shakti in the form of economics and money. Bharat Rebrand project is going to rebrand India to Bharat because then it will connect us to the ancient story of why it happened Bharat, or why we became Bharat in the first place. And that time it was the time of kings. That time it was the time of trade when people from across the globe used to come to India. When I know that story about this ancient glorious past, I will not go down and spit where there is no spitting written. I will not throw a wrapper because now I'm proud of who I am, who I was. So now I want to model my future. So Bharat Rebrand project is not one content. It is a narrative and a mission set out in the form of whatever media I can put out there. It's my personal one, which will reform India to become Bharat. Not because of me being a Hindu or any other religion per se, because that is the glorious past that we had, and I want that to model the future, and specifically the AI world to model the future too. So that is the mission I am on. So it's not something which I put out every day, but it's something which I'm working tremendously every day so that in the next year, I put out so many things out there that the entire AI platform starts saying, oh, no, this is what India is. It's not the chaos, it's not the cow, it's not these accents, it's something which is what India is. All right. So that is the end. It's a large mission. It is going to take me a decade or so, but I am modeling myself and all the clients I'm working with, all the content I'm doing it based on this one mission. And since you have put this point out, so why do people need to know this point? They need to know this point because as an Indian or somebody who is part of this globe, you need to have a very strong mission to model whatever activities you're doing. Because AI is now going to take away most of the jobs.
You believe that?
I believe that because it's the entire companies, the Raavans of the world, are modeling it towards that because it's much easier to control. It's much easier to control when it's in in a GPU, it's in your server. And control is something what people, after a certain point of time, when Elon Musk gets bored, he wants to go to Mars and Moon because there's nothing else to do in this world. What will he do? Thousands of satellites across the globe. He can see anything what he wants. What is the next he wants to do? Legacy, behavior, and power. That's a common human trait.
But I feel that I also thought about this a lot. And then I feel that humans are good at inventing work. Like a lot of our work is invented, it doesn't need to be there. But somehow I have this faith that people will end up, it's not, may not be the good thing, but they'll end up inventing new work for themselves. So one job replaces the other.
Completely with you on that. I'm not saying that it will take away. Let me rephrase it. It will take away the jobs right now. New jobs will definitely come in. Where there is a quote which I function with on my online platform: automate the noise, humanize the content, and free the storytellers. What does it mean? Automate the busy work. As media professionals, we used to take pride in saying that we worked so hard on the script, struggled, slept on the railway station, then went to a producer, he said no, and then we worked hard and then made a very shitty film. That is not how I'm supposed to look at content or work in general in this world. So automating that scripting process, the research process, then humanize the content, because now the research and everything has been taken care of. So now I can humanize the content by thinking who I have been, what I have been wanting to do, what is the story I want to tell, then again using that tech to humanize the content. And now as a storyteller, I'm free to tell a better story. That is what my problem with the ad agency folks are. Ad film directors calling content film or calling their advertisements as films is the problem. Because ads have a specific formula. Start, middle, end should definitely reach a certain goal of increasing sales for that particular product. That's not a film. A film needs to impact me internally so I can model my future and my behavior properly. Like I said before, also, then it should be relatable to me so that I become better as a society. How can an MDH ad or any of the ad becomes like a film? It doesn't become a film. It doesn't even use the reels of a film. It uses these SD cards. It's not even a film. So that is my problem. So what I want AI to do is take away their jobs first. Take away their jobs so they are free to tell a good story which then becomes a film. So that is what my quote is. So yes, coming back to your point, definitely AI will take in jobs, new jobs will come in. See, ultimately what happens is we came from hunter gatherers. There was a cave. We were sitting inside the cave, holed up because bahar there is saber-tooth tiger, one dinosaur, one random hybrid who's going to attack us anytime we go out. All right. So inside we are sharpening the tools. One of us has to die so that we understand how big is the threat. All right. Those are the jobs that are going to go in the AI world. AI is the saber-tooth tiger, AI is the dinosaur or whatever hybrid. But one of us then goes out and actually takes over the saber-tooth tiger. He comes back and then he etches on the wall that this is the triumph that I have done. Now you model your future according to that. Those stories of us fighting the big monsters and animals is guiding the next generation inside that cave to start a new job. Then we invent a fire, then we invent a wheel. So that's not going to happen. But the initial sacrifice is going to happen with the jobs. So I look at us the same way. AI is attacking us from all sides. We are sharpening the tools by outskilling ourselves, like learning new skills. But then some of us will have to go through that sacrifice. And some of us, like myself, will have to etch on the wall, like ancient Indian billionaires, that this is what we were. Model yourselves, then go out. You can't go out by saying, ki main to marne wala hu. What is the point? That's not how you're supposed to approach it. So filmmaker's job is to then take this thought process ahead, not make a freaking ad. All right. So that's the problem with current. And that's why I hate these ad film directors. I lose many of the clients because I have a problem like that, where I tell on the face, नहीं ये कैमरा ऐसा नहीं, नो, दिस इज नॉट व्हाट आई लाइक एंड एवरीथिंग, दैट्स हाउ सम पीपल स्पीक टू मी। मैं बोला कि तू जो कर रहा है वो मैं 2 प्रॉम्प्ट में कर दूंगा, व्हाट इज द पॉइंट? आई नो व्हाट टेस्ट आई वांट। देयर आर मेनी पीपल हु डोंट गिव मी वर्क बिकॉज नो नो यू हैव डन shoots, you have done AI, but I'm not sure how you'll handle big budgets. That's why I don't go to any producer. I'm like, then don't give me budget. I'll show you what I can do with the fraction of the cost. Then don't come and tell me that I'll pay you now. That is what many people have approached me at this day. Let us also promote, let us also give you some money or be part of this project. I'm like, what are you going to do by giving me money? For $100 or $1,000 you'll give me, मैं ऐसा ही कमा लूँ with my brand work. What are you going to add value to? You give me a distribution, like we both have a conversation because you are very clear you want a podcast about marketing and I want a certain distribution, so my thought process goes out very clear. You also get it, I also get what I want. But some people giving me money to make a film will make him feel
Right.
or he or her feel that he is part of my project. That's not how it works. That's why I don't want anybody paying me for any of my film. You want to be part of it, you'll be a silent partner taking the profits whatever I have. You can't call shots for the script. I didn't come to AI because of that.
Yeah. So with AI, do you feel a lot more empowered that your dependence on other humans who would have somehow created work around you, which was not meaningful work, but pre AI that just existed, right? You had to go to a script writer because there was no one to write a script. So, however shitty that script writer was or whatever tantrums they had, you had to kind of just deal with it because you needed to do that. Now, does it help a person who has a range of things that they understand or is willing to understand, ingrain, so that with AI they can become better?
AI is a good amplifier. AI is a tool per se. Like for I'm speaking specifically about Gen AI, content creation per se. AI is not a style. AI is a tool just like VFX में Unreal Engine है, Blenders है, Flame है, After Effects. It's just a tool. When it comes to gaming, for example, the graphics sometimes are really bad because they have to render real time or wherever the controller will take them. But what drives games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and the new one which has come in is the nice story. So people are focusing too much on that tool. A writer focusing on the pen and not the story is the problem.
That's why I found that having an AI film festival somehow doesn't add up, because it's like having a Adobe Film Festival or a Leica or a Sony.
It's the marketing. I don't go to any of these film festivals. I do get offered that submit your film. I'm like, you take it, whatever's there on the internet. If I win, then send me the money. I'm not going to come there and say, oh, this is the best fest. You telling a bad story is a bad story. Use AI, you use VFX, or you just shoot it. Bad story is a bad story. People are hiding behind the good looking visuals of AI to tell a bad story, which is the problem. And most of these platforms, they are starting these film festivals only and only so that their product is promoted. I go to the festival, I get offered free credits. Simple. People are, and some of the filmmakers who are using AI, not AI filmmakers, they they are also promoting it as like a big deal. You know, we did this in 10, something which would have taken $1 million, we did it in $10-15. Fine, but who was giving you that $1 million in the first place? You know, I mean, relax. Two prompts. I can also do a content every day. In my sessions, I make an entire teaser or an ad like in 2 hours. I can do that every day. But does that make me like does that make me any different? Was it not my 15 years of work and experience which brought me to that particular prompt and give you a complete output with clarity of thought? Where are we speaking about that? We're speaking about the new tool which has come in. So that's a problem. We don't speak about Avatar was done great in VFX. Avatar was Avatar because the story was great.
So Ram Gopal Verma put out a tweet saying, praising Sea Dance too, and he said that this will allow a lot of more Rajmoulis to come out. So I think that yes, with the tool, new set of storytellers might come in, but they need to have that storytelling ability. The tool will only make it better, easier, but the storytelling has to be there, right?
Very well put. That is exactly the core of this conversation. That Storytelling as an ability has to be there. Tool will keep on changing. In fact, I was thinking before coming to this, I was thinking that if you see my work, there are so many times where there are just white shots, there are people just warping like that. You know, I would not want that warping. So I would regenerate and everything, but sometimes I keep it. You know why? It's not my problem. It's the camera, which is the AI. They are not fixing that particular problem. I have pushed it to its limit. Now see my work, change it and make it effective. Change it and make it something which a pro filmmaker can use. You are not fine tuning your models. You are just getting critical mass and every Tom, Dick, and Harry wanting to make AI films. But what about the critical? What about the actual storytellers? What about the actual filmmakers? So I mail many of these models that when I give this particular prompt, like for example, I mailed like Kling people, I give this particular prompt, a Chinese fellow comes in. I don't, the prompt mentions an Indian fellow. Why is that a problem? No response comes to me. When I go to super extreme wide or use a particular camera preset of an IMAX with a certain aperture, there is a certain problem which comes on the sides or the borders. So I mail all of these things. I don't put it out there because it's not, I'm not going to do it for free. I just tell them because I want to use that tool properly. So I keep those problems. See it. And if some people come in, oh, see, there is some warping happening, I tell the platform, it's not my problem. My job was to tell a story, which I did. उसके ऊपर VFX करना है तो तू पैसा देगा क्या? Are you going to give me money to do some VFX? So that's how I approach it.
Reach this stage as a storyteller, what were the experiences, what is the kind of upbringing that got you to this stage to tell the stories that you want?
Honestly, gatekeeping was a big problem. I didn't know whom to approach. In spite of having a brother in the industry who's worked tremendously with bigger films, he was not able to put me across to these producers without an experience. My conversation with him was very simple. If I don't get a film to make, how will I get more experience? What exactly do I have to do to tell my big story? I don't want to start small. Every new short film starts off with a suicide, and there is a single guy who's smoking and drugs and those very cringy shots. I don't want to do that. I always wanted to tell ancient Indian billionaire story. I saw Star Wars. I saw Star Trek in '97. When we had gone to the US, there were Twin Towers were still there. I was 8 years old, I guess. Yeah, 8 years old or something. And a boy from Thane, directly goes to New York. It's a big problem. Their wiring changes exponentially. I was the one who was calling cinema picture dekhenge. So my Masi corrected me saying, no, we call it movies here. So that kind of thing, when you take back, we waited for the 3 months. I saw the toy stores of the world. I saw how a city or a country can be modeled so beautifully. America was beautiful, okay. For an India at that time, America was really beautiful. Very well organized, okay. And it still is. Then I came back to Thane and I saw chaos, which people speak about. I saw under construction things. I saw gods in our mandir, ghar ke mandir. And then that Star Trek visual and those gods visual, this modeled my brain to a point which gave me the glimpses what AI gave me in ancient Indian billionaires ka prompt when I put in. I was blown out of my mind. Like, this is what I want to see. Why was I not able to create it? Because first of all, to create that particular visual, I would have had supreme amount of money which nobody was willing to pay me. So gatekeeping for sure got me into this particular using AI regularly. Right now also I'm not against AI at all. I'm against the overuse of AI by somebody who doesn't understand the beast they are with. The other day I was actually going through an interview by an ex OpenAI personnel, and he was mentioning very clearly that how Microsoft also did it. You give a very powerful technology to somebody who does not understand it, and all the innovations which accidentally happen, you take those innovations. So he was mentioning, do not use any of the APIs of OpenAI because they are studying you, and once they study you, they model their entire thing according to you. That's when you are going to be redundant. So I understood all of this before, even when this new tech come in, because of my mentors. They were deep people who used to light a nice joint, sit on the terrace and have these deep conversations. They are not discussing ladies. They were discussing these deep things about how humanity is thinking, how everyone else around is thinking, what is a capitalist way of approaching things, how do communists approach things, what is the middle ground. This all we were doing when we were working in Channel V. When I was working in, of course, my mentor at that time was somebody who was the pioneer of Channel V when it began. He was the one who made Lola Kuti. You remember that property? And many of the Channel V's strong IPs, and many of the Channel V things where, let's say, for example, Channel V का logo है, तो उसके नीचे गाना लगेगा इन ही लोगों ने, and you have Channel V logo going like that. So I came from that, those mentors who were thinking, right now I don't want to name them, but I came from those people, and it was a group of people, not just one person. Those people were working creative even when AI was not there. That was the actual brainstorming that we used to do on the terrace. Those are the brainstormings which we discussed an idea for 8 hours, then went out for drinks. I never used to drink, but I went out with them, and next day used to thrash those ideas. What the boring ideas we come up with. Then third day we used to go back to the idea we thought in the first place. Then again next 4 days we used to make it. 7 days that idea used to be online, or that idea used to be on television, sometimes on theaters. And if you want to complete the loop, we used to win some Pro Maxes of the world, or those the Lions Award, or which one happens in
Curious award.
Curious Design. So those awards we used to get. So that used to complete our entire brainstorming to that loop. Now, I come from that background. I know the feeling of each and every step of how to be frustrated with an idea to come to a final point. So AI then becomes a tool for me to just do that quickly, but I go through the same frustration. I come up with an idea. Then after that, what I do is I make the first draft. I thrash the draft. Fourth day, I'm thinking that I'm the worst person or the worst creative in this world. I do not know what to do in my job. Fifth day, I take a break. Sixth day, I go back to the first idea. Seventh day, I'm editing. In the next 2-3 days, I'm just vibing with the idea, and then I put it out there. AI has brought that timeline from few months to few days to me. So that saving of time makes me put out volume of work, but with concentrated effort, which I know how the feeling is. Right now, when people just begin with AI, that's a problem.
But is it reducing teamwork for you? That because it's you
Yeah.
and the AI working together.
Yes, yes, it is definitely reducing the teamwork, but only because after more than a decade of being in the creative field, right now I know what to expect from a person for a certain resource. But as an AI filmmaker, if you're starting, you have to work with a team at least for 4 to 5 people together, because those conversations is going to build you as and your character. Once your character is built, and that's when you can make better stories. Don't start off with AI. Then you will be everything will be synthetic. You will get into a position of AI being your yes man, or you liking everything. That is a problem. The pushback of, this might not be a good idea. How would you know if you don't experience that with your friends or with your colleagues? So directly AI and automating the workflows is something which I feel in the start is not good at all for anyone. No, you won't tell a better story. You'll tell a good looking story.
That becomes a new standard, right? Everybody is telling a good looking story then, right? Because everybody has access to the same tools.
But the story good looking makes no sense, because there are better audio stories also. Now the next phase will, you expect imperfections to happen, like how people are writing. People are now writing so well. You have a conversation with them, they'll be like, pata nahi kya likha maine. Or they'll have those chat GPT conversations with me. No, this is not an X, this is Y. Those kind of framings, and that big M dash which comes in. M dash has now become a taboo. It is a good thing to have because it breaks the conversation and breaks the sentence properly. Now, if you use an M dash, ये तो AI use करता है लिखने के लिए. So, human premium is what has begun right now. And thankfully, I've been in my past to answer your questions, to understand what a human premium is. Human premium is at least what a human way of creativity is, which also can go to great perfection, just takes some amount of time.
Right. And I resonate somehow when you talk about going to the past for a story, like going back to our history. Because if you look at architecture today, right? there is no distinguishing style of architecture in any modern city. If you look at a Singapore versus a Hong Kong versus India, every building is a glass building. Every modern building is a glass building which could be placed anywhere. And for architecture, we are going back and saying, okay, let us look at the Taj Mahal, let us look at a Japanese temple, let us look at an Oxford, and there you go back and see, okay, this is what their culture was, this is what their architecture was. But today that's not happening. I fear the same thing will happen with AI, because then everything becomes very global and very much the same thing across the world.
Yeah, I mean, AI is approaching, making everybody like a socialist in a capitalist world. Socialism is what? Common, saman, everyone in on the same page, and then we barter into. That is what people have been speaking about. What do you call my friend? One of my marketing heads were telling me there is a phenomenon called as common income, standard income for everyone.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. What is that? Don't you think that comes from the Communist Manifesto? Basic income. Of course, they'll not have income per se, but the idea is the same, right? Everything else becomes AI and you will have universal common income. No, I don't want that. Humanity needs, communism does not work at all, predominantly because humans want to grow. Yeah, we want to fail and we want to become the greatest in the world to the lowest in the world. We have our extremes. You put us on the same page, we'll have problems. North Korea needs biggest armies around their borders, not from external threats, from internal people getting out. That's the problem. All right. So communistic way of approaching AI is not going to work. There will be certain people who will make billions from it. There will be certain people who will be the biggest losers. And there is an important quote which I want to tell you. It is by Professor Neil Postman, great professor for the Western thought. What he said, and he used to go against the Bill Gates in the 80s. What he said, very specifically, there are two people in the world. Are winners and there are losers. It is the job of the winners to make the losers feel that they have also won. All right. So that's what he says. He says the same thing about Bill Gates, that there is no need for a high speed internet line in a school because we learned really well. But because he wants to sell his product, and I'm paraphrasing, because he wants to sell his product, he has convinced everyone that internet is needed for education. Tell me what Sam Altman is doing.
The same thing.
He has ChatGPT for education also. For studying, you can use ChatGPT. Right now, there is a news where he is going to have a cap on adults and adults can have erotic conversations. Tell me if I get used to having conversations erotically with ChatGPT, who's going to model different stories, and then I run out of credits, my credit card is ready, and then I'm going to put that and continue that conversation with ChatGPT Mahila, who I'm speaking to with, or ChatGPT man whom I'm speaking to. So it's in the end going there. All right. We might be a small platform to discuss this, but this is the conversation of the future. It's going to happen. And we have to keep on speaking about these things so that AI it's not going to stop, but at least it's modeled in the right way. And you know who the villains are or the Raavans are. So whose job is to become Ram? Of course, from people from India, which leads me to Bharat Rebrand project. You know what you are. Don't take the sannyasi aspect of things all the time. Take the who was Ram's father? King Dashrath. He was not a sannyasi Dashrath. Materialist fellow who understood that there needs to be not too much expansion, but right amount of expansion. And there needs to be certain amount of economics that's going around, all right, into the country. India was never expansionist. If India would have been expansionist, we would have gone to Lanka and taken over Lanka. Ram came back by putting Ravan's brother only there. If a country who understands that civilizational framework makes a company, then that company will let everybody flourish in a group identity and will not have a common income. All right. Income is very capitalist thing. You can live any which ways happily. So India needs to model the wisdom of these new giants which are there, which with Modi ji right now, putting the focus on AI summit is actually a very good thing. I'm not commenting on the details of it. Galgotia University problem is overblown, but there were many deals that were signed, which, even if deals were not signed, the world was speaking that there was an AI summit and they were all on one stage. I don't care about his politics, but at least the global PR is getting rebranded. And as a citizen, my job with the Bharat Rebrand project is the same thing, to push from bottom up. Modi ji might be doing it from top to down. And I'm not a politician. A storyteller's job is that. And those are the people who should make films, not like ad film folks. That's why I take a long time to make anything what I do.
With the AI summit, what I also felt is that India is also leading a lot of countries who are not really equipped to absorb the cost of AI in bridging that divide. It's saying that AI should be for all, and you should make indigenous solution. You cannot make a model, maybe that's too much of a cost, but you should have your own indigenous solutions like Servam that you mentioned, like we have UPI, which is a public good, so that
Yes, absolutely.
you can use that technology, because our summit was called AI Impact Summit, and it was all about possibilities and the future and what it means for humanity. That we are looking at people, progress, prosperity. I think those were the words which were put out, right? And 2 years ago, a similar AI summit happened in Europe where it was a lot of scaremongering, right? They were like scared of what will happen when AI comes in. Loss of jobs was the primary thing that they discussed. But here it's a very different story that we see in India.
Absolutely. And in such short span of time. So I care about how globally we are positioned. All right. So, and that is something every citizen should care about. And I have faced racism because I've traveled extensively. I've faced racism in the point where it was not physical hurt, it was psychological hurt. There was a time when I went to a small county near Ohio State, which is the eastern side of the US. It was a stone quarry there. I had gone there with my sister's boyfriend and we were holed up in a tent, and it was a music festival with Pink Floyd as the theme. I was familiar with Pink Floyd and everything. I was super excited. This was back in 2014. All right. And that time when I went in, I saw that there was no Indian there. I saw even only one black guy. Okay. No Indian. And I was roaming around, but you know, those subtle looks that you get, of course, because you look different, but at the same point of time, the looks of why the hell are you here? And then there was this one individual who started calling me Appu from Simpson. Are you familiar with Appu? He's an Indian. So then I realized I didn't feel anything at that time, but then I actually thought about it. I thought that, you know, how media and content per se has such a strong impact on a society, that his definition of Indian is that Simpson character who I think works in a petrol pump, right? And I thought that, what is the point of me making films or something if I can't even tackle this kind of a stereotype? And that was the journey that I took myself through. I bought my first Apple Mac in the US only. I downloaded the editing software. I shot everything from New York and everything with a small camera that I had. And then I put it together. It was the world's shittiest film, but it made me feel so good because I could then tell a story which was very personal to me. I wrote it nicely. I recorded the audio also. So it started off with something where I felt that media has too much of an impact in our lives. People speak also in a certain way where certain films or series get hit. Right now, if one song in Dhurandhar makes people, or one entry of Akshay makes people go crazy only, na? Everybody's doing this. That is the impact because it trickles down the society. Now you tell me, doesn't it become your responsibility to tell a better story which has a good impact, or you just make it because somebody gave you money? That is why I'm against taking money for making any of my content, because I don't want subtly people to influence me. So that is what I wanted to tell.
If someone is watching this and is wanting to start, people are excited about AI, they want to use this as a storytelling medium. What little advice could you give to them? Travel, maybe?
Would tell them to go, yes, definitely travel, yes. But if you can't afford travel, start traveling in your mind by reading books. Don't paint your mind with films, because then you are in somebody else's visuals and you'll model your brain according to that. So, reading books basically is a very introverted activity. Reading books actually makes you sit in a corner and imagine the world which I can never visualize. Everybody's reading and visualization is different based on their conditioning. So going through these books or any of the books will make you like, you know what I suggest? Whatever religion you belong to, read the Purans or read Mahabharat. Leave Mahabharat because that's overdone. Read the Vishnu Puran and the Bhagavad Puran. Leave the bhakti aspect of things right now if you're not into that. But see the visualization of those freaking books. They have visualized how a human is formed in 26 layers also, starting from sound. How from sound different senses are formed to become the physical gross form. How would you visualize that in AI? How would you visualize sound in AI? You can't. Certain books which lead you to not go out of your brain. They have given some calculations of how human human timeline and God's timeline. A God's day is human's day 6 months in a human's day in a human timeline. And if you go above that, you have super gods, then you have rishis, then post that you have Brahmaji, whose timeline is something else only. Before that, there is Manu's timeline. It's impossible to visualize. So going through, and I spent my entire lockdown reading those 18 Purans. 18 Purans I read, they are in English, I read it in. All right. But Sanskrit, I was reading in parallel. I was not going through the purports, meaning the interpretations of them. I was going through the entire story. My lord. I was uh, I was overwhelmed with the knowledge because 6 books I did not understand. Last 7th book I started understanding, because then those stories started coming in which people have started visualizing, like the Vara avatar or the Narsimha avatar. If you go through the books before that, you can't understand them because they're very esoteric. And most of, I feel that the storytelling peak was then. Right now we're just rehashing.
Do you feel not enough is being done to teach it to people? Because I think most 99% of us don't know. Teach it.
Yeah, it's not commercial. Ancient Indian Bharat Rebrand project is that only. I want them to be the next DCs and Marvels of the world, because that is the actual story. DCs and Marvels, what are they? Thor with a hammer. What is Parshuram with an axe? What is the difference? You have Hanumanji and a counterpart in China with Wukong. All right. So all of these are common stories, but those stories need to be told way before what was there. Like Noah's Ark, we have a Manu. All right. The same stories go around across the globe. So there are many other stories which are there. Even before the Mahabharata, there was a battle of 10 kings, Dasharadnya, which is what led to the name Bharat, by the way. There were 10 kings whom fought on the northwest frontier and the northeast frontier. They fought, and in the person who won was from the Bharata clan. That's how the name came in. All right. So these stories are they predate Mahabharata. Who's telling them? Nobody's telling them. People are just now again one actor they'll take, then go to Ramayana. What takes? It's going to be popular any which ways, but there are more stories which will make us feel like
There is,
we are really rich in our civilizational history.
there is one aspect that you mentioned, which was how stories are being told on a rectangular screen. Could you shed some light on that? Like, what is your problem with a screen?
My problem with the screen is that it's completely focused on my eyes. I'm not feeling the story in my body. If I go to watch a theater, there is a big ghanta that plays. After that, I see those actors in front of me. I see their visual moments of a drama theater. And what happens is I'm living and breathing in the same air as these people are performing, and the visuals or the backgrounds are very suggestive. I know that in spite of me being in the theater kind of an environment, I know there is something which is immersing me with my body per se. But if I'm consuming stuff on my phone, the entire consumption happens through these two funnels. And that leads to me straining this. And slowly, if based on the AI content creation happening, so much of volume coming in, my problem is that all our other senses to even feel a particular story are going to go away. One more thing which I want to tell you what my problem is that we are into a era where we are degrading the technology. Few years ago, there was something called as IMAX Dome in Vadala. Do you remember that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Watching a movie there, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember seeing the Vande Mataram in that? Vande Mataram, A.R. Rahman's Vande Mataram in that? What were you doing? You were feeling your country's sound fully, immersively. And then one day they stripped it down to this one rectangle. Why? Because they were shooting it like that. It was expensive to shoot it like that. So if a technology is coming to a convenience, becoming convenient for a person who's into the logistics part of it, why am I telling a story in a rectangle? I'll tell a story in my format.
Is the cost of reach, like the price that you pay to reach more people?
I mean, honestly, then why can't you model your mobile phones, which becomes critical? Why can't all the tech people of the world model themselves to take this technology ahead? We came from keypads, right? We moved into bigger screens. Keypad, BlackBerry thought that it will never become, people need the touch of the keys. But an iPhone came in, it disrupted the market. We are in a stagnant phase right now with AI coming in. Who's thinking about hardware? Meta thought about hardware, but they put a camera. What's the thing about privacy then? You think of a hardware which is not going to definitely affect me when I keep the phone inside here, or where there is tremendous blue light which comes in. I have to wear this constantly because I'm constantly watching a screen. So this has a red tint which at least blocks some part of things. How many can afford this? So the technology is made cheaper while there are innovations happening in random places. Why can't the global people who can focus on something which can tell a better story using a better device, which is more intuitive for the AI world, which is why I have a problem with screens. Then filmmakers go back and reverse engineer by saying there is a rule of third. You have to place the people here because people's eyes move like this on a screen. Rule of third makes no sense. It's absolutely stupid a rule because stories, you are engrossed in a story even if it's audio. Your grandmother told stories, your mom dad told stories. This rule of third is a very very filmmaker kind of a like those theorists who do not tell a story, they have come up with this kind of format because and now it's become a habit. Keep everybody in the rule of third and automatically your subconscious is just looking there. Now you have modeled a habit. Why can't you model the habit in a better technology is my problem, which nobody is doing at this stage. Technology is degrading. Your thing about architecture. This is the same problem which Mumbai faces. Mumbai's indigenous stone is basalt. Okay, you go to the fort area or Ballard Estate area. It is modeled according to Manchester and London of that time, where there is heavy stone because there is too much of snow happening, a lot of rain happening. Mumbai, heated environment, you have those holed up inside a stone. Our indigenous architecture is not that. Our indigenous architecture requires more windows. What Shivaji Maharaj did in his forts, there were huts thatched with cow dung. All those natural things are gone because somebody modeled the entire Mumbai according to London. Okay, we are still going with, oh, this is the crazy classic Mumbai. It's a wrong architecture for our it's a colonial architecture. So I feel this rectangle is also the problem. I will model my stories if you give me a tech where I can tell a story, my story will also change. Ancient Indian billionaire story changes because most of my visuals want people to go like this also. I don't want people to go like this. What is the point?
So how are you achieving that? What medium are you using?
Right now, what we are trying to do is, first of all, having separate viewing rooms. If I walk into a room, I will have screens all over. Have you? There is something called as Team Lab in Japan. Team Lab is interactive art. You get inside it, even if there is there is water. Like for example, there is one room there, complete water. You go in with your knee deep in water, and then there is fishes which are projected, and they move when you move towards them. Now I'm experiencing that. What is it? It's just water, and just like, but that story feels like we are in a surreal world. Now I come out of Team Labs a changed person where I feel nice. I don't feel the same when I watch a freaking screen. So ancient Indian billionaires follows that technology where those rooms are built, and those rooms you get in, you experience the seven heavens above, seven's hell down. The entire thing is modeled according to that. The promos will happen on a vertical screen because you all are there, but I will never upload that series which is completely ready on YouTube or something.
So how big is the series? What's it like?
It's 8 episodes, 40 minutes each, and this is the first season. Now, I told you that the season goes from the first dynasty in the 18th century till the dynasty of Kuber, which happens in the ancient India. We do not know the time about. So that is what this series is about. It will roughly be about 10 seasons, but the experience will be similar to Walt Disney. You get inside a Disney studio and then you experience that.
So is it a story or is it a documentary, historical documentary that you are making?
The vertical, the horizontal series will have the historical aspect of things, all right, and when it comes to experience, you will have the concepts of all the modeled. They are not completely true to the text, but they are very close to the text but hyper visualized. So that's where you enter into that. But to get the people to get going into that, we start off with the horizontal historical series which forms a documentary.
What is your comment on the kind of content that we are consuming through the scene, through the screen, and how do you want to change that?
Honestly, the screen's supposed to be wider because your eyes are elliptical. So the screen, we are not even holding the screen the vertical rectangular these days. We are holding it vertical. Now the problem with that is my focus is only on the center of the thing. So that's why the entire dynamics of people or content creators have now become in the form of a talking head. All right. With that, now what happens is I need that talking head to be very interesting. And most of the time, people are not conventionally good looking. So they have now adopted to a particular format, which is a hook kind of a format. They'll suddenly shock you, make you wait for at least few seconds, and then the entire screen, then whatever content they put out. Most of the time, the content says nothing unique. It is really a chat GPT script which comes in.
This changes everything, right? I don't know how many times have you seen that.
That is something which is very addictive storytelling. And that addictive story, I wouldn't call it storytelling, but that is just
Addiction.
like somebody's dopamine.
Yeah, totally.
You cannot basically make people addict towards a certain thing. Now the problem is that we have no other option but to consume that, because that is what is getting us the views, and the algorithm is pushing that, because most of these platforms want this kind of a format which is low barrier to entry. Your phone, you take it out, you put the teleprompter on, you just put it out there and it will fly for you if at all you follow these principles of a hook. All right. Problem with that is that it's now making all of us addict to that format. We now cannot handle something which is on a slow pace. So going to the theater will require us to have a bigger spectacle per se. Bigger spectacle like a Bahubali which had come in, like an Avatar that was coming in. But the human stories, like English, people will say, why to go to a theater? I'll consume that on an OTT platform or my mobile phone. All right. So, if at all you want to make people change this addiction, what are you planning to do? The idea is very simple: volume, but with good storytelling. And I say storytelling, not content creation. The problem also starts there where you call it content per se. So good storytelling in that format, slowly then pushing them into reducing the amount of content you consume there and giving them a good spectacle like a Bahubali or like an Avatar. Now with AI, that barrier to make an Avatar or a Bahubali has gone down. All right. So content creators need to now become filmmakers to bring people out there where me and you can have a conversation. Hey, Amay, let's go and watch this particular movie. Not because it's made in AI, because I'm getting out of the house and experiencing that, which will reduce my screen time. When I'm watching a movie, I'm not scrolling through my phone.
Because I read about it that these days, they don't make a movie where you blink and miss things, because you know that the audience is going to miss because they're going to check the phone. So you kind of give information 2 3 times in many ways so that you don't lose out on that. So you're not remaining true to your story. You're remaining true to the format that people have adopted.
Yes, correct. And that is difficult to break also. Like I was mentioning, Korea has now vertical theaters. There are theaters right now which are consuming vertical content. And Korea is a different case study altogether. Korea has a Hallyu strategy, and it is a government strategy of exporting soft power across the globe. That is the reason why K drama, K pop, Korean burger, kimchi burgers, all of these have come down to our streets. And that soft power has also modeled the way we consume, modeled the way we dress, modeled everything that we are planning to do. If at all, Bharat Rebrand project is about that. India has much more fuel for that particular soft power. So might as well focus on that way of storytelling instead of adopting to these screens and the formats which these platforms are expecting you to do. So the analogy comes in this way. If you are going to create content and these platforms require fuel, right? Content becomes their fuel. So instead of being kerosene and burning just a small lamp, I urge people to be impactful like a rocket fuel, because that is what is going to change the entire game. That is how society will have deeper conversations, and society will be able to have a conversation in the first place, because it's easier to read a teleprompter and speak. It's easier. Having conversations is what actually took human race further. We were not the strongest. In my newsletter that's coming, AI with a side eye, I'm putting it out there at this stage. My topic is survival of the weakest. We were weak. That's the reason why we became intelligent. And now is the era where we are outsourcing that intelligence. Now you cannot be surviving in a forest because you are the weakest any which way is there. You can't beat a lion or a gorilla. Now, when you in a city environment where you are the apex predator who was surviving on intelligence, you are outsourcing that to a chat GPTs of the world or any of these AIs. So how exactly are you going to survive? If we are holed up in that cave which I was speaking about, we decide that we are here for just for being fodder any which way. We are going to die any which ways when you go out. Might as well just chill and live and procreate in this cave only. That's not how humanity survived any which ways. We were at the time, we were the only reason why I think Yuval Noah Harari's book mentions this, and I have my apprehension in how he puts things across, because he puts across a very bleak thing where faith has no role in humanity. But what he puts out is kind of an interesting theory. The theory being, I think this book,
Sapiens or the one after that?
is the Homo Deus one, Homo Deus, which is the next one. I think in that book he mentions very nice story that the only reason why Homo sapiens actually survived is because it had the ability to gossip. And the ability to gossip and exchange stories is what led to these smaller clans survive from the upcoming threat. Right now, with this content creation where we are 8 hours of screen time, who the hell are you having a conversation with? So you have to reduce that. AI needs to focus on bigger spectacle, which brings people out of that AI slop where only Shivji is walking with Nandi, Ganpati is roaming around, just making those gods and just getting or banking on people's faith. Bring them to a spectacle like an ancient Indian billionaires, where you will want to just have social media just to share what you have done in your life, which is what it was. not to teach me something. Right. Just to connect with you. Oh, nice, you went there. Oh, you went to Goa without me. We are not even having these conversations because we have stopped. Gen Z doesn't even post on social media. They post in those vertical talking heads, which gives them they speak about gyan as if they have lived their entire life. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's the problem. Outsourcing of your cognizance and intelligence, which is going to create a problem. That's why I'm a bit pessimistic because intelligence is the only way we survived. And if you're outsourcing that, then what do you plan to do? That's a problem.
Two interesting things which come out, right? When you said content, the verb that you use is consumption with content. The next word that you use is consumption. And with storytelling, you can probably use felt a story or lived a story. That's the difference, right?
That's very well put. Very well put. You equate that to emotions, which is what we experience. Right now, either people are leaking too much information or emotions across the internet, or they're being very cold. There is a certain strange vibe going on overall in the internet, and which I see most of the time. If I speak about something very intelligent, the first thought in my head comes in that this will not fly in the algorithm. But when I launch the newsletter, my profile is all the professionals from across, all the IT professionals, and good amount of people who follow me at this stage on LinkedIn. When I put out the newsletter with only one line, AI with a side eye, in this age when everything becomes artificial, how the hell are
Hmm.
you planning to be human? I didn't even put an article. It just got 12,000 subscribers, which means people are speaking about it. People are thinking about it. Just like that. There needs to be at least someone who speaks about these things because I'm worried about the Raavans across the globe. I need to tell India's story. And I don't want to be a Ram, but I want to give the right framework for the Rams of India to come out and start telling that story. And this mission of mine, the Rebrand project, is that the Rams will tell the right story, then it will fly. It's not my person's, one person's job.
So I think what I have gained from this conversation is a really different way to look at things. The way, even though we are using AI, it's become a part of our lives today. How can you look at it differently? How can you look at it with your own unique perspective and not just be looking at it and as a consumer, but also making sense of it and growing from it, growing through it, and growing with it, right? I think that's what I have learned. Thank you so much for being a part of this show.
Thank you so much, Amay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any last closing thoughts?
No, I wish complete success to this podcast from the bottom of my heart. I hope this podcast flies. You get all the success in the world. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to have a conversation about the important burning topic in AI and not just speak about tools. There are 1,000 tools going on. You can use any of these tools and become a good storyteller if you use them right. In my sessions, also, I tell people very clearly if you don't have a story, don't try to invent one. First, figure out your story, then use AI to amplify that story. And the tools are already there for you to tell it nicely. So automate the noise. There is no gatekeeper in AI these days. Humanize the content by going back to what you were, what you feel like, understand what your emotions are, skim through all the crap that you have been fed, tell that story, and then you are free to tell that important story to the world. I want people to just focus on that at this stage.
Thank you so much. I don't want to say like, share, subscribe because that's what everyone says. But if you are interested in content like this, please stumble upon our channel. Thank you so much.